we're going right now is we're talking about John Fitch ago, right? This is a part of the Fitch collection here. And as I said, Fitch was a great driver, a great connoisseur of automobiles, but also had a business modifying Corvairs. But not just that, he also modified Firebirds. If you notice slight differences in the styling here on this particular Firebird. Adding flying buttresses, which seems to be a Fitch trademark, because he did on the Corvairs as well. So I tried to do a little bit of background on John Fitch, but I'm sure you can do a better one.
Okay, well, he was a race car driver in the 50s. He raced at Le Mans. He was the SCCA's first national champion, I think in 52 or something like that. So he raced up until into the 60s around the U.S. and in Europe. He drove for the Mercedes-Benz factory team in the 50s. Drove a lot for Briggs Cunningham. He drove a lot of the race cars here. And then in the 60s, after his racing career, he started making his own packages of cars. He first started out with the Corvairs. That was probably his most popular one. He would sell complete Corvairs, or you could buy them in pieces from him. Then in 66, I believe, he made the Phoenix, which was going to be his own body design and stuff, and he was taking orders on it, and they changed the regulations on automobile manufacturing, so he couldn't afford to upgrade the car to those specs, so the only one that ever got made was the one over there. Then he made a couple Oldsmobile Tornados, which one is there, and then he made up 4 Firebirds, which there's one here.
Okay, so let's do a quick walkthrough of some of the Fitch products, because let's start with the Corvair, because he was fascinated by the car when it first came out in 1960, and he decided to add his own special touches to it to improve the handling, improve performance.
Yeah, so he actually added, I think he added carburetors to the Corvair. The second generation Corvairs, you see the sail panels going down. That was a styling touch of his. He had a Judson magneto. He had a bracket that you could put on your pedal to heel toe the gas pedal and stuff.
It would wind the accelerator, I guess.
Right, while you were on the clutch, keep the RPMs up. Put in driving lights. In the interior, there's headrests in some of the cars. He had his own steering wheel. I think one of the cars has a steering wheel in it. He has suspension modifications. He put in these rubber bumpers on the frames that would, as the suspension started to bottom out toward the frame, it'd contact these rubber bumpers and effectively change the spring rate to slow down and stiffen up the suspension when you were under high cornering speeds and loads and stuff. The Tornado, he put the sunroof in. He had what he called fan air seats, which he poked a bunch of holes in the seats and had fans under there to blow air through the seats to kind of...
How well did they work?
I don't know. But I would imagine they were probably pretty crude. But, it was the start of innovating things like that. He made wider rims for the Tornado. What else did he do? He has a light monitoring panel in it to tell you when a light would blow out, so you'd know, like if you lost a tail light, a light would light up on it.
That was also available on Corvette standard.
Yeah, they used fiber optics on the Corvettes. Yeah, he did it electrically by electromagnetic switch.
Gotcha. So. Now, the interesting one that I see here, because this is one I didn't know about, was the Firebird. This is not the top performance Firebird. This is the overhead cam 6 Firebird. This is a base Firebird, and he decided to add improvements to that.
So the the overhead cam was the base motor for the Firebird. This one from the factory is the 4-barrel option, which they call the Sprint. Mm-hmm. And John actually preferred the overhead cam over the V8s because it was, being a road racer and stuff, it was less weight over the front tires. And he thought it made the car handle better. When he was working on the package for the Firebird, for the overhead cam, he was planning to put a supercharger on it to make up some of the power loss compared to a V8. But he never had time to finish that endeavor. So that was his way to try and get the power back and improve the handling.
The Fitch Phoenix, the sports car, that was also Corvair powered.
Yes.
And he took that drivetrain. The Corvair was an air-cooled 6. It was an air-cooled 6 before there was the Porsche 911, by the way. It had independent rear suspension, swing axles in the first generation, something a bit more sophisticated in the second generation. It was a very sophisticated car, especially by Detroit standards, which is probably why it appealed to Fitch so much. But he basically took the componentry from the second generation Corvair and tried to take it to another level.
Yep, and it actually is pretty. I think he did a pretty good job with it. The styling of it is very similar to the C3 Corvettes, and some people say that General Motors may have copied that design a little bit for the C3, because I believe that was made in 60. He was probably working on it in 65, because I believe it's a 66 model. So that would have been 2 years prior to the C3.
Amazing. But Fitch, of course, part of Connecticut automotive history.
Yes, yeah. I mean, was associated with Lime Rock. He was the first manager of Lime Rock. He helped configure the track, from what I understand, and I think he managed it. I forgot how many years, into the 60s, I believe. And of course he had the cars, and so yeah, he's kind of Connecticut racing folklore,
So thank you very much.
Thanks.